Going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to a little bi-coastal post-game hang with Chuck Mockler, myself, and Andrew Claudio from the wonderful Knicks Film School. But he's looking not as jovial as the last time I saw him, which was not too long ago. We're going to talk what happened in this game. Thank you for hanging out. You can find myself at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast, along with Will Updike and Adam Osland. Andrew, how are you doing on this fine evening after the Clippers, I'll just say, beat the Knicks, because that's what happened. I don't need to put any extras on it or anything like that. How are you doing?
I've been better. I'll say that. I'm doing better than Jalen Brunson right now and his sprained ankle. I'm doing better than Deuce McBride and his strained groin. I'm doing better than Campaign and apparently his painful ankle that caused him to miss the second half of this game. And I'm doing better than probably the Knicks coaching staff, who is just navigating life without any hint of a point guard or a ball handler. Not a great night for the Knicks, of course, especially for the final three quarters. But I tip my cap to you and the Clippers. That is an interesting team to talk about come playoff time.
Yes, and it's been 72 games now for the Clippers, and we're just rounding into form. So I guess better late than never. How did you feel in the first? Because this was a game where the Clippers have shown up to a lot of games this year. Last year, there was a lot of issues of do they know that tip-off was at 7:30 and stuff like that? And to start this one, you guys jumped on us a little bit.
Yeah, I thought the ball movement was good from the Knicks in the first quarter. There was a stretch to start the game where the Knicks' first 7 shots had 7 assists. This is just the way they've had to manufacture offense right now without Jalen Brunson. They don't have a ton of advantage creators at the moment. You look at the Clippers, which you got a show in the second half of this example, but you have guys that you just give the ball to, and the entire defense devotes their attention to them. And it might not even matter. Third quarter, you saw what James Harden can do when he can take over a game. Fourth quarter, you saw what Kawhi Leonard does when that happens. And as good as Karl Anthony Towns is, his ability to take over a game is largely based on his shot making. Look, when he was hitting shots in the first half, and it was great, and they were cutting, they were playing 5 out, and he hit some nice passes. Mikal Bridges had some nice passes. Josh Hart played outstanding in the first 13 minutes of the game. Picked up his third foul, and I actually didn't think that's when the game turned, because this is a Tom Thibodeau pet peeve of mine. The lineup that was out there to start the second quarter, I thought was about to get creamed anyway, because it was Josh Hart, Precious Achiuwa, Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, and Tyler Kolek, rookie Tyler Kolek. And as good as
Kolek's nice.
So as good as Knicks fans think Tyler Kolek is, I don't think he's ready to be the second ball handler.
Okay, yeah.
in a lineup that just has no space, so there's no room to operate no matter how much you're cutting. Precious Achiuwa is basically being told to space the floor in a lineup with Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson on it. But Hart picks up his third foul almost instantly in the second, and they go to Mikal Bridges, who, what do you know, has an offensive game that you can kind of do stuff with, and he got hot in the second quarter, and it's what kept the Knicks. They had a 13-point lead after one. It was around 10 when they put the starting 5 back in, and that's when you started to see. I don't know if I'd have to go look at the film and see what adjustments Ty Lue did. I know they switched up and put Kawhi on Cat.
Yeah.
So Zubac was then guarding Josh Hart, and then Zubac was just helping off of Josh Hart.
Safetying, basically.
Yeah, which is kind of what teams have been doing. Good teams, at least, have been putting their center on Josh Hart, which works really easy when you're guarding, when you have Jalen Brunson. At least you have a counter to that if you're the Knicks.
Totally.
Because you bring Josh Hart into the action, and Jalen Brunson's now being guarded by a center, which is fine. You don't have Jalen Brunson right now, so it kind of neutralized your offense for the next couple quarters. All this to say, I kind of saw the wheels starting to turn the other way. It went from up 13 after one to tied at the half to down, 12 or down 10 to eventually a 13-point loss. And you could put it on just one team being healthier than the other, one team being better than the other.
Fatigue too,
Yeah,
second
Knicks
night
on
of
the
the
second night of a
back-to-back.
back-to-back. I got to be honest, Chuck. I was waiting for the majority of the second and third quarter for the. All right, so when's the Clipper run going to happen? That just makes this a 10-point game.
Yeah.
And then James Harden goes almost by himself on a run in the late third.
The end of the third was like.
Yeah, and then the Knicks are down 10. So I sit here not surprised by the result while disappointed by it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the play-by-play, and the Harden third quarter was just crazy.
Yeah.
And he also, I don't know if you knew, he rolled his ankle the other night. He was described as moving around like a pirate in the locker room, but in true James Harden on the Clippers fashion, he just comes in and kind of puts the team on his back until Kawhi decided that it was his time. And you mentioned Kawhi defending Cat. That's one thing that Clippers fans have been waiting for, because the offense, I think it's the last 7 games now, he's put up at least 20 points. He's hitting his shots in the paint that aren't at the rim. So it's like the offense was there. But him guarding Cat was a really nice thing to see, just from a he's getting ready perspective. The Josh Hart fouls, Josh Hart, and I don't watch a lot of the Knicks, obviously, but he is such a heart and soul piece for you guys that everything just resonates off him. The 3 fouls on him I thought were huge for you guys because he just flummoxes the Clippers a little bit. And it just the personnel thing you mentioned, we messaged a little before this, but you're they just didn't have enough guys. And it's tough without Jalen Brunson. And we almost gave you guys a win that would have been a pretty nice win. But
they would have clinched the playoff berth if they won tonight, which look, I think the Knicks will win again this year. So I'm not worried that their magic number is still 1 for the rest of the year. But look, Josh Hart getting his 3rd foul was tough, but I did not want that lineup to be what was the second quarter lineup. So it worked out as a blessing in disguise. It was, look, first quarter, they were running the offense through Josh Hart. It's what we've been begging for this team for a while. They get a little isolation happy. They get a little Jalen Brunson heavy in these games. Jalen Brunson's great, and I'm not going to complain about they have a good offense. Just they had an elite offense when they were playing 5 out, using Josh Hart as more than just a screener to bring centers into the action. So Jalen Brunson's being guarded by a center. And it's this weird conundrum because so when teams do what the Clippers did tonight, and you almost saw it that anytime Cat noticed, I'm being guarded by Zubac, he's I'm driving to the rim or I'm putting up a shot. It's almost an automatic into the Knicks offense that the moment they realize Cat's being guarded by a center, it's all right, this is Cat's possession. We're just running the offense through Cat. But when Cat's being guarded by Kawhi or any a wing of sorts, a center's usually guarding Josh Hart. And so the Knicks will, especially in crunch time, this is the Jalen Brunson version of the team.
Right.
They'll just let Brunson run the offense, clear out and bring Josh Hart into the action. Teams will either switch it or play drop, and then it's Jalen Brunson against the center and drop coverage, and it's why he was on pace to win the clutch player of the year. Let's see if he plays 4 more games.
I forgot about that award.
We're very focused on it because our guy is the front runner.
Yeah, this is no knock on Jalen Brunson, but I think that is such a dumb award.
Oh, so do I. But our guy might win it this year. So it's my favorite award ever.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad option to have Jalen Brunson going into the offense, like against the center and drop coverage. If they switch it or if they blitz it and or I guess technically hard hedge it, and you get the ball into Josh Hart's hands on that type of when he goes to set the screen, then it's Josh Hart in 4-on-3 in the short roll, and he's been very good in 4-on-3. Guy set the Knicks record for triple doubles in a season last night. If you're doing it with Josh Hart in the dunker spot, then worst case scenario, you get Josh Hart with the ball on the low block, and he's shooting 65% at the rim. So it's 3 technically good options are available. The problem is that Karl Anthony Towns disappears from the offense. They largely use him as a floor spacer. So I say all of that to give you an idea of how Knicks fans have experienced a lot of the second half of this season, where teams have made the adjustment of never letting a center guard Cat and guard Josh Hart instead. That has just been a lot of bring Josh Hart into the action. What you saw in the first quarter tonight was Tom Thibodeau actually call plays for Josh Hart and to have him run the offense a little bit, like him these whether these horn sets where Mikal Bridges is cutting, these sets that lead to Josh finding Anunoby on the short roll.
Cuts. Like it was the back cuts in the first half. Van Gundy must have been losing his mind because the Clippers, and it's been a thing all year for the Clippers, is for some reason with a coach like Jeff Van Gundy, like they're missing the back cuts, and you guys got a lot of good business in the first half on back cuts.
So in that sense, it was good to see and look, we saw this a lot last year when we lost Julius Randle and lost Anunoby, and Tibbs. We kind of went to a playbook that we never really saw when he had both Julius Randle. And really just with Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, like guys that he had kind of leaned on it was just more a lot of drives, a lot of isolation, low turnover, high possessions. But I say all of that once he activated Isaiah Hartenstein last year, you saw, like Tom Thibodeau does have a bit of a bag. And this year we had wondered where it went. And without Jalen Brunson these last couple weeks, they've had to lean on heavy ball movement, heavy, like if they get a bunch of assists, they have a shot. And look, 35 assists on 42 made field goals is a very good ratio.
Not bad.
They're probably missing a guy that can just go get a bucket, though. I think his name is Jalen Brunson. And it's why largely in the second half, it was like the moment the Clipper run comes, I don't think the Knicks are going to have the firepower to get back in this, which is what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. We saw two guys who can go and get buckets in Kawhi and Harden against kind of none, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to Cat. The Josh Hart thing's funny, too, because we were looking at the last time we played. Josh Hart had 20 rebounds the last time that the Clippers and Knicks played.
He did.
And we won that first game by just shooting you guys out of the gym. I think we made like 9 more threes or some number of threes that is very difficult to come back from being on the short.
Yeah, it was a lot of threes. I remember Bogey had like 13 rebounds, or Bogdan had a bunch of rebounds, and that was annoying. Josh Hart had 20 rebounds in 46 minutes that night, so it was a heavy Josh Hart game. That was a mere hours after Jalen Brunson had rolled his ankle, so they had just played.
Oh, that's right.
It was Crypto the night before, and it was like, okay, we have no idea what we're gonna do.
Let's adjust.
Let's just a lot of Josh Hart, move the ball around. The only thing that's really stuck from that night till now is that it's an automatic. The moment that Cat notices he's got a center on him. Like, this is the moment that we cross half court and see that they're matching up center on Cat. Okay, get the ball to him. It's his possession. So.
Yeah, we got to see a reunion with former Clipper player Landry Shamet, who was being targeted on every single possession possible. He had to go against Kawhi. He had to go against I'm like plus minus is, you can feel however you want about it. He was minus 29 tonight, and it was evident. I didn't realize he played 19. He played half of this game. Which I'm sure as a Knicks fan, I was happy to see the Clippers exploit that. It's nice for Kawhi to get shots up against someone like Landry Shamet, who did make one of the most important and famous threes in Clippers history when they came back from down 30 against the Warriors in that game. I'm still convinced that's the only three-pointer he's ever actually made. It's the only one I've ever seen go in.
So the two he made tonight didn't count, is what you're saying.
I didn't see him.
Didn't see it. Got it.
But that, and like just looking at the bench, it was just like you didn't have the guys. Mitchell Robinson, not his best performance, but again, you guys are down, and the Clippers bench mostly. I'm looking at Nick Batum and Derek Jones, who were just really, really clutch for the Clippers in terms of play connecting and stuff like that.
Well, we talked about it last time. The Batum as a center minutes that they go to is just like a deadly. I mean, they could basically play 5 out. Now it's interesting that they combat going 5 out with Ben Simmons, so it's almost like Ben Simmons is your center.
Point
But
center, yeah.
so
It's
like
muddy.
they had during those lineups, it was Batum guarding Cat though. So look, you said it. Whether it be Batum, whether it be Derek Jones, the Ben Simmons minutes weren't terrible. But like you can go 9 deep, and it's why like I do have some Clippers questions about
Yeah.
like your team's starting to make me wonder. Like, oh, you joked about like, oh, we're rounding into form at 15 games left, but to use a baseball analogy, this is the team that finally starts to look like the team that you want them to look like in the middle of September when like October's right around the corner. I'm a Mets fan.
Yeah,
That's literally what
bullpen's
happened
getting
to us.
hot, like
Right?
all this
Like
weird
our
stuff.
starting rotation is starting to put up zeros.
Guys are healthy.
Middle of our order is starting to get
Yeah.
hot. And with this Clippers team, like I noticed obviously we didn't do a pregame pod this time, but I tried to do the research anyway ahead of the both the game and
Oh,
our
you're a great
show tonight.
broadcaster, of course. That makes
I
sense.
try. But like the Clippers just had this game against the Thunder where you raise your eyebrows. This game against the Nuggets where you raise an eyebrow, or against the Cavs where you raise an eyebrow. And I'm starting to wonder if like are you now wondering, is there like, I think you like your chances in the 2-7 if it's Houston, right?
Well, so they're sitting at 6 right now, which
Okay.
the team is.
That's Denver.
Yeah, which there's some Russell Westbrook revenge magic in the air if that's the matchup, and there's obviously the Jokic thing, but I would prefer to play the Rockets. I think a lot of people watching and who listen to the pod would prefer to play the Rockets too. They have a lot of good guys. There's that experience issue, right? Young teams in the playoffs. Everyone is worried about it. We'll see what the Thunder do to that kind of cliche this season. But I feel, and I say this as someone who has had his heart ripped out of his chest as a Clippers fan more times than one probably should. I'm feeling as confident as I've felt all season, which, as you mentioned, it's a great time to be feeling confident that they are going to be a team, because I had them as a high play-in team coming into this season, which they are for the most part. It's going to change a couple times. Ty Lue's making the right substitutions. Bogdan's hitting shots. Ben Simmons is there to cut, defend, and pass, which he's doing great. Zubats has found a whole nother gear, part to his work, part to the fact that James Harden is the system and has been better and changed. I wasn't ever anti-Harden, but now I'm like, this guy is phenomenal
Right.
to have on your team, especially for a team that needs bodies a lot of the time. And Kawhi is becoming the best player on the team in terms of both ends. So, like, it's hard to not get incredibly excited. I think, yeah. So someone in the comments is saying Memphis would be preferred. So, like, yeah, like Memphis,
Well, yeah.
Memphis or Houston. It's like, sure, sign me up for that.
I gotta be honest, not to interrupt, but like,
No,
I think you guys might pass Memphis. So there's a world where if they're 3 games back, they're tied with the Lakers for 4th right now, 44-28. By the way, I know I shouldn't be saying this on Clips and Dip.
Go for it.
But thank you to the Lakers tonight for this 1-point win over the Pacers.
No, that's fair.
The Pacers
are
chasing
your
the
enemy,
Knicks right now the Knicks are dealing with, again, no point guards at the moment. So the Clippers are dealing, the Knicks are dealing with the Pacers chasing them during the stretch. So every Pacers loss counts. So I'm very happy that the Knicks, like, I wonder, do the Knicks clinch now because the Pacers, no, it would be the team that's in 7th that has to lose another game.
Yeah.
So regardless, the Knicks stay 3 games up on the Pacers. And look, speaking of the Lakers, that's the other matchup that could potentially be there. And we talked about this last time, this Luka rivalry now reigniting itself in the first round, but now it's with the Lakers attached to it. This Luka Clippers rivalry, as well as a Lakers Clippers rivalry. Man. I know as an outsider, I would enjoy watching that matchup.
Yeah, I think that would be a level of stress and hatred that is bad for anybody to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it would be tough. I'm looking at the remaining strength of schedule, and this is only based on winning percentage of the opponents. Memphis has a tough schedule. They got to go Thunder, Celtics, Nuggets, Lakers, Warriors, Timberwolves. So not a very easy schedule. I don't know if they drop because I'm also part of being a Clippers fan. This trip, these last 4 games was kind of like the prove it stretch, right? We had Cavs, Thunder, Grizzlies, and now the Knicks. Where it was like, this is a difficult stretch of all those teams. They go 3-1 on that. They probably should have won against the Thunder. That's been their most consistent stretch. We're this far in. We're seeing their most consistent stretch. I need to see them end strong before I'm ready to be like put us up against anybody. But I'm feeling pretty good about coming out of the first round. I think that we got the role. If Bogdan can stay, again, I know I keep bringing him up, but we brought him here to make threes and to shoot threes. He's been really good at like showing some of his other stuff. He can do the pick and roll, which is nice to see. And I thought when it was Batum, Bogdan, and Ben Simmons who came in when things were kind of flat tonight. And they chipped from the lead a little bit, but just the energy they brought. I think it was Derek Jones who had a crazy block, or Nico did on a chase down on somebody. And it's like that kind of stuff where it's like, okay, we're seeing these like spark plays from the bench and everything like that. I think it gives the Clippers much more than a fighting chance. And also the Intuit Dome in a playoff series, I think would be an incredibly difficult place to play for an opposing team.
To clarify, that's even if it's the Lakers?
See, that's where it gets weird because if it's the Lakers, I wonder if they do, and I'm on the fence when baseball teams do this, where they say, only these fans can buy the tickets. Part of me is like, support your fucking team. Like that shouldn't even be an issue. But when it's in the same city, I give it some pass, right? Like,
yeah. The funny part about that is we dealt with this in the playoffs last year, and this is just like I understand this is a Lakers fan thing too, but this is a very much a Knicks fan thing,
right?
Where they go invade other cities on the East Coast. There's like all these different.
Awesome! If the Clippers fans were able to do it, it would anyone. Yeah, if you have the fans to invade an arena, it's one of the coolest things you can do.
So last year when they played the Sixers, and that's like a short trip down I-95 for a lot of Knicks fans. I forget the holiday that was that weekend, but kids were off from school on Monday. I think it might have just been spring break, to be honest.
Yeah, because we're around spring break now. It's like, was it Cesar Chavez? I was like, I don't know if they do. Yeah.
That's funny. The Knicks played the Sixers first round last year. Game 1 is on a Saturday. 2 is on a Tuesday. Game 3 is in Philly on a Thursday, and Knicks are up 2-1. Game 4 is on a Sunday, and the kids are off from school on Monday. So every Knicks fan and their child drove down to Philly.
I mean, that rules.
Yeah. When I tell you, it sounded like MSG for that entire game. We're in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson's getting MVP chants louder than he would at MSG in the fourth quarter. And so that's why, like, I'm on a Clippers pod, so I want to make sure I say this, but I
appreciate it.
Like, I would, for the sake of the advantage that you would get to have, I would like to see it be the Nuggets or the Rockets, or in your case, the Grizzlies. But I'm starting to think some things about this Clippers. I'm hold on. Now you got to pull up the betting sponsor.
Well, the other part that helps the Clippers at Intuit in terms of an advantage is the wall. It's an entire section that has been phenomenal this whole season. If anyone's affiliated with the wall and they're watching, hats off to y'all. You guys have been killing it. My family, I took them to the game when they were here. They were super impressed by it. The playoff wall will be incredible. And that in and of itself will be loud. But to your point, I think someone in the chat said it, like, we want the easiest route. Like, I'm not one of those people that we got to beat them at some point. I'm like, let's beat them later. Like, let's play them. Like, let's get into form, because we also have to see what this Clippers team looks like in the playoffs, which has been, we've had a lot of bad luck injury wise, knock on wood, and stuff like that. I have a lot of faith in Ty Lue. There was this weird stretch where he had to miss some games because of his back, and Brian Shaw came in and won some good games. And then Ty Lue comes back against the Thunder. We lose. And some fans were like, bring Brian Shaw, make him the coach. And my one co-host pointed out he was a head coach at one point, and it did not go very well.
Did not go. I remember that stretch with the Nuggets. Yeah, he replaced George Karl.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, the most highly coveted assistant is finally getting a shot. And they turned back then there was no play-in, so they were just a 9 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a 10
so
seed,
it's like, it's fine. But no, we're starting to think, and I'm sure my co-host Adam Oslin, who's doing AM 570 right now, would say maybe chip or bust or something like that. But like the pieces are there to be an incredibly good playoff team, and it stems from, as you're a fan of a team coached by Tibbs, the defense has been good all year.
That's why I'm telling you, I know the first quarter went the way it did. It's fun to watch a team rack up a lot of assists. Like the ball movement is a great thing. Advantage creators are such a pun intended advantage. And the Knicks just don't have that right now. Jalen Brunson was the ultimate advantage creator. And I'm especially this really good defense. I figured there would just be a stretch where the Knicks scored 33 points in the first quarter. Like, okay, are they going to have are going to be able to get to 100 tonight? And I'm staring at it in the fourth quarter. And there's, other than this late OG Anunoby surge, this team was headed toward like a 105 point night, even though they scored 33 in the first. So it's why I'm looking at this Clippers team. It's like, okay, James Harden can go get a bucket. Kawhi Leonard can go get a bucket, especially if you've got Harden's gravity. Norm Powell can just kind of run the offense for a little bit. And now you surround them with going 6 or 7 deep. I'm telling you, man, I'm not trying to blow smoke because I'm on a Clippers pod. This team has the defense. And look, probably the thing I haven't even mentioned yet is the Knicks actually got some stops in the fourth quarter, and they were
absolutely
back.
The very end was a little scary. The very end,
yeah. So like they did get some stops in the fourth quarter, and they were trying to get it down to 10, and then we maybe can have some fun. But my goodness, Zubac and these offensive rebounds. Like I think he finished with 6 tonight. Yeah, finished with 6. Finishes with 18 and 10.
His
and
49th double-double of the year.
So this used to be us, the Mitchell Robinson, the Isaiah Hartenstein, like Josh Hart getting all those rebounds last year. Like we would just deflate teams. And the way the Knicks would get all these good looks is because they were winning the possession battle. One of the best ways to get an open 3 is get an offensive rebound when the defense is already like, okay, we played our 24 seconds. We have to play another, like they're ready to go on offense. And then you get another quick possession to an open 3. And you saw that tonight. I'm staring at it now. 13 offensive rebounds to the Knicks 7. And in second chance points,
we killed
you absolutely did. I just got to find it. I don't know the number, but I know that the Clippers won it for sure.
Oh, I have second. Yeah, it was 19-9.
19. Yeah. So the Knicks lost by 13 and they lost that battle by 10. So, it is what it is. The fact that the Clippers can beat you in multiple ways, whether it's just one of their main guys going off, whether it's with a suffocating defense, and then you add in the possession battle, and then to the point about the last game, maybe they'll hit 19 threes in a night, and you can't beat them that way either. So yeah, I'm actually kind of like proud that the Knicks had that first quarter because it's like, oh wow, you gave it a fight for 3 quarters. I'm proud of you. I thought you had no chance tonight, and you gave me a 2.5 quarter respite. So thank you.
Well, the second chance points is funny because we got killed on that versus the Thunder. The Thunder, I think we gave up. There was 4 offensive rebounds that led to 3s.
Okay.
For the Thunder, so it was like everyone was worried about that. The Clippers also, which I was surprised at. I thought you guys were going to cause a lot more turnovers for it. 5 turnovers for the Clippers, and I think the last one was like the final whistle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was new for the Clippers. The turnover percentage has gone down since the trade deadline, but there's games sometimes where Harden has 7 and we're at like 17 turnovers or something like that. But not turning the ball over is huge. And to not do it, I guess, against the Tibbs defense, it's been playing really good since the All-Star break, right? You guys are like 10th in D rating since the All-Star break or something.
Not specifically the All-Star break. So I've talked a lot about the importance of Jalen Brunson, right?
Yeah.
Since Jalen Brunson has gone down, their defense has taken an improvement. Like you said, I think their defense is 10th right now. Their offense is 25th. Right. So It's like
Trade-off.
you're not going to win. Exactly, there's trade-offs. They've somehow managed like a neutral net rating, maybe even like a little bit positive net rating, but basically they're winning games the old school, like Julius Randle pandemic shortened season, where it's like, listen, first to 25, Cat's basically the Julius Randle role. We have Cat and 4 good defenders on the floor at all times, and we'll try to beat teams that way. And unfortunately, a game like tonight where it's like District Bride wasn't even there tonight. Campaign, who's like
so he's a Clipper killer also.
Right, like he actually played well in that first quarter.
God.
So you mentioned the turnovers, right?
Yeah.
How many? So you know how many? The Clippers had 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
You know how many they had in the first quarter when Campaign played?
3.
Damn. Yeah. So they had 2 turnovers the rest of the game after he got hurt.
I mean,
one in the second half that he didn't play in. So
right.
That leads to a little bit of it, you know.
Yeah, he had one of the most infuriating Western Conference Finals runs to go, because it was someone put it on Twitter. It was LA Clippers Film said, "I'll never forgive Campaign for that fake ass Western Conference Finals run," and that's fair. You mentioned a betting sponsor. Do you have a betting sponsor? Because the Clippers apparently hit their over on a win total of 40.5.
Yes, congratulations to the Clippers. Shout out to the fine folks at BetUS, BetUS TV as well. Staring at it, they're plus 2,500 to win the West, and I'm considering some things.
I mean, hey, $10 bet on that's not bad, you know.
And just hedge once I realize they're like up 3-2 on the Thunder, and then move on from it.
Yeah, or 3-1. Yeah, we got a super chat saying Kawhi looking like Kawhi is all I can ask for. That is what the Clipper. James Harden's been so good. I don't want to say he's been overlooked, but we did kind of forget what peak Kawhi looks like. And it looks like, unfortunately for Knicks fans, this game is where he maybe cemented a bit. He was guarding Cat well, and all that good stuff. But I'm also, so when is Brunson back? Is there a timeline for you guys?
So
are you guys like the Clippers where it's like, we don't know, and you just get strung along with fake pregame shoot-arounds and things like that?
That's funny. That's not just us. I'll say this. Yes, the Knicks do keep their injuries close to the chest. Especially last year more so was the more mystery, because like Julius Randle dislocated his shoulder in January. And for the rest of the year, it was like, yeah, he had surgery. Like, we'll reevaluate it in 2 months.
Reevaluation.
Then he got reevaluated. It's like, reevaluated in 2 weeks. And then it was reevaluated. And then finally they shut him down for the year. And then the Anunoby thing was the same way, where he just was like out there for warm-ups. And it's like, oh, he's a late scratch. Well, he's day-to-day. The guy was day-to-day for a week and a half.
Yeah.
And then the day of the trade deadline, after they had already made their deals, they announced like after the deadline has passed that he had surgery like a week ago, and it was like an arthroscopic, just cleaning some stuff up,
a little scope, the classic,
right?
Just a little scope, a scrape.
He's got a playoffs to look forward to,
Yeah.
So we're just gonna keep him there. And I say all that because last year was the year we got frustrated with the Knicks updates on injuries. They've been very transparent about Jalen Brunson, and it's like, hey, reevaluated in 2 weeks. Tibbs actually, because I think he recognizes, and I also think he is also thinking, hey, we're kind of needing him to come back as soon as possible. So when I know things, I will let you know things, because I can't wait to tell people he's back.
Right.
The last update was that he'd be reevaluated this weekend.
Okay.
And he's out of a walking boot. He was sitting there on the Knicks bench tonight, so he's obviously
good sign, yeah.
He's doing pool work. I think the update we're all waiting for is that he's been cleared for practice, because that means he's cleared for contact. I assume after he's cleared for practice, it's like 1 game and he's back. I also
out there, yeah.
Oh, the moment. Now I assume minutes restriction will exist, and I know
what's the Tibbs minutes restriction though? 35.
So that's funny. So I recognize I'm on a Clippers pod, and you guys are very familiar with minutes restrictions. Believe it or not, last year, both Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein were on minutes restrictions. Now, Tibbs being Tibbs, it was funny. The Hartenstein minutes restriction was like a hard 30, right? Like he can't play more than 28, 29 minutes. And so Tibbs would, against certain teams, would be like, all right, I'm going to play him like 6 minutes in the first half, and then the entire second half.
24, yeah.
Right. Like it would just
Man,
like the
just a
funniest thing.
lunatic.
Hartenstein hasn't checked back in yet. It's like, oh, because he's gonna play the entire second half. Got it. And it would be a similar thing with Brunson, where and that's as weird as this sounds, I do think he'll be a bit reserved and listen to medical when it comes to Brunson, because they're kind of locked in. They're locked into the 3 seed at this point. And with Brunson, I think they're really just looking at get your 4 games, get your eligibility so you can make all NBA, like get your bonuses.
Get the cash, yeah.
Right. Like there's a chance you win this clutch player award. They're 5 wins away from 50, which would be the second consecutive 50-win season. The Knicks haven't won 50 games in back-to-back seasons since 1994.
Holy shit!
So, like,
yeah.
So, like, we're at the point where it's more ceremonious. It's probably the first Tibbs season that they're not fighting for something in the month of March,
right?
You know, and it's been an adjustment for a lot of Knicks fans that have lived and died with relevant basketball. And what you're finding out is a lot of teams go through these dog days in March and the schedule being really long. And this is the upgraded tier that we've entered into. So I expect Brunson to be back probably late next week. He'll get his 4 games in, and then we'll go from there.
How do you guys, because the Clippers, it's like, I think it might just be a Ty Lue thing. They have the stay ready game in practice where it's like when you're about to come back, if you play, like our update is, oh, he played in the stay ready game. So it's like, oh, like he must be good to go. But I assume Tibbs is just making them run suicides for 2.5 hours.
So again, that's funny that's they don't practice, actually. It's the complete opposite.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, that's probably good.
They play all the minutes during the game, and then so that's been one of my frustrations. Is they'll second half tonight. You saw Tyler Cole
Doc Rivers. There were so many press conferences where Doc would be like, "We didn't even practice this week," and it's like, when do you practice? Then?
So they look like a team that hasn't practiced in weeks, right? I used to make these jokes during January when they were struggling a bit. And everybody's like, the minutes. And then the counterpoint would be like, hey, they don't practice. Like, hey, you know what they should do? Play less minutes and practice. Because they look like a team that hasn't practiced. But what was I going to say? It's funny that's a Doc thing too.
Then you just like, you're the coach. You can, I know guys are hurt, but you can still practice.
So what you saw in the second half tonight when campaign went down was Tyler Kolek played the third quarter. The rookie Tyler Kolek, 2nd-round pick out of Marquette. He played the entire third quarter. I believe that was him getting a look as what could potentially mean him starting at point guard. Then DeLon Wright played his first meaningful minutes as a Knick on Friday. In the entire fourth quarter, because he's probably going to be their backup on Friday.
Okay,
So
he was only -3 tonight. Like that wasn't great.
I actually thought his defense was fine. He's just not a point guard. Like they played without a point guard for the fourth quarter. So I think it's tough to put a wing in that spot. I would assume he enters. I don't know if we're gonna get Marchand Beauchamp getting a look at this.
As a former Clipper himself, he didn't get very many looks for us, but
So you get it, yeah. So like that's they're scraping at the 10th, 11th, and 12th man right now. Maybe they'll go to get one of these rookies, Pacome Dadier, this French kid who's looked good in the Knicks G League team in Westchester. This kid Kevin McCullough, who is the second to last pick in the draft. Is like a pick before Bronny. Like the Knicks had the pick before and after Bronny.
I remember everyone wanted the Knicks to take Bronny.
Right. So they took Kevin McCullough before, and then they took Ariel Hukporti. And Hukporti actually became the Knicks' backup center before Mitch came back. And then he tore his meniscus. So he's unfortunately out, and Preston Sachua has been their third center with Mitchell Robinson back. It's weird to say this. Like I'm staring at April 11th or I guess April 13th, which is the last game of the season. Yeah. And it's like, get to that spot as the 3 seed with a 50-win season. Rest. Let JB get to and you get a week off, prepare for Milwaukee or Indiana or Detroit. And then this has been such a slow slog to the finish line, especially since Brunson went down, that I'm ready to see the end of the tunnel. So
that makes sense.
This is a question for me.
We have a smarmy question from Jeremy Mormon. I'm getting some stank on this. He said, ask Andrew if he's happy that they didn't trade for Paul George.
Oh, for Paul George. Oh, I thought for a point guard because they're out of point guards right now. Yes, very actually.
Did you want him at any point? It's not obviously
Yes.
hindsight's 2020, but
I wanted to trade Julius Randle for him.
okay.
I imagined a team with OG Anunoby and Paul George and Josh Hart and DiVincenzo at the time, and Mitchell Robinson. Like that's a Tom Thibodeau team that you lean into the defense in so many. Okay, maybe it wasn't Julius Randle. Maybe I wanted to trade RJ Barrett for him, so it was before they got Anunoby.
Because that would have made more sense.
Yeah. It's just like I'm trying to think of how the team makes sense.
So many moving parts since then too.
There were many times where I talked myself into Paul George is the point. And now I'm glad he's like at that number in particular. I'm very glad he's not on my team, which I throw it back at you. Like this is now, I told you, I remember watching Clips and Dip the night that the trade deadline happened and you guys were on live and then it didn't happen and you came back on.
We did 2 hours.
Yeah. And you guys were like, this is the correct move. Don't let him go for that number. This is the second apron's a bitch. And, we're at the point where this is the smart move, right?
It was. And we tried to tell Phillies fans, it's like, look, or Philadelphia fans, like, look, we understand that we have a bitter taste in our mouth for how it ended, but like and we hope he gets healthy. Obviously, you never want to see injuries, but when he is healthy, he's not a guy who's worth $60 million a year. Like the Clippers have done 2 things that I think were really important. They've done a lot of things in the 2-1-3 era, but they showed 2 pretty big things. They showed through things happening, Paul George was not a max player. They were right to not give him that deal. And they also showed a lot of people are like, we should trade Kawhi Leonard because we need to do that. They showed that you can't trade Kawhi Leonard because he's been hurt. Like, what is his value? He's very good when he's healthy. We're at game 72 and he's rounding into form. You know what I mean? Like, they showed those 2 things. I'm happy they committed to Kawhi on less than a max. I cannot imagine this season if Paul George was making $60 million for this team.
Yeah.
We would be like we thought it was
that your pick isn't your pick, and it would have been the icing on the cake, which is why a potential Clippers Thunder first round matchup is interesting. Paul George getting roasted by Knicks fans for podcast would have been fantastic.
You guys would have, because the Philly media was he when he was on his podcast saying Philly media, bring it on. I was like, you absolute moron. Like,
well, just to counter, not even counter, but to follow up on this, Scott and Chuck. Yeah. The Knicks have their own player podcast. It's called the Roommates Podcast with Jalen Brunson.
But everyone loves those guys. They went to Villanova,
so you have that pod and you have the Paul George pod. It would have been like, imagine those pods going at it and one player's not like they're not passing the ball to each other. It's like, you didn't come on my pod. You're ahead in the rankings.
And that's like almost. I mean, if Vincenzo would have been there, that would have been like almost your whole starting 5 on 2 different pods. The PG thing, it sucks for Philly fans and it sucks for Paul George's health. But like, you took dirty sheets and you made a dirty bed and you decided to go to sleep in it for some reason.
I feel for Paul George, although he's getting paid very handsomely.
Yes.
One part that I just don't think has been celebrated enough by Knicks fans this year is the laughing at Philadelphia, laughing at Miami, laughing at Brooklyn. This should be our nirvana. The Knicks are on pace for 50 wins.
Right?
All our enemies, except Boston, are collapsing. But Boston, like, they built an unfair thing, so I can't even, like, whatever. Well, you'll eventually crash and burn too. Whatever. The fact that I get to laugh at the Miami Heat and laugh at the Brooklyn Nets and obviously the Sixers after last year it's been a joy from my perspective.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think we're about to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Knicks fans, you have a wonderful podcast here. Where can these maybe Clippers fans too, if you guys want an East Coast team, check out the Knicks. They might win 50 games. They probably will win 50 games.
5 more. Just staring at 5 more, man.
Where can these people find you and your squad's wonderful content?
You can find me and my squad over at Knicks Film School, whether it be on YouTube. We just crossed 20K. So
Let's
Thank
go.
you. So that's a nice milestone that we just hit. We're also on every podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, what have you. We have a newsletter on Substack that comes out 5 days a week. We have a Patreon if you want extra content, breaking down a lot of film, an extra pod covering the NBA at large. We're on all the socials, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, releasing a lot of bite-sized content there as well. And you find me on social. It's right there, GMAC, at Andrew J. Claudio _. So
there we go. Well, we thank you for coming by. We thank you for doing the pregame pod too. Always fun when the Clippers play the Knicks because of this bi-coastal connection we have. I have been Chuck Mockler, William Updike, and Adam Oz, and myself will have a full crew pod for y'all tomorrow talking what it's like to be the 6th seed because that's new for us. Thank you again. And as always,